When you think of the phrase south of the border, you probably think of Mexico. But Mexicans think of another country. Let's take a trip down Guatemala way and check out the Liga Nacional de Guatemala stadiums. Estadio Winston Pineda. This place is nicknamed the Condor. Is that because the two stands represent the large wings of a condor? Or is it because it's situated at around 900 meters above sea level? Probably not that one, because that's not particularly high by Guatemalan standards. Who knows, maybe it's just because it sounds kind of badass. Either way, it seems like a pretty solid stadium considering it's in a small Guatemalan town. There are just a few proper seats, but at least those concrete steps are mostly undercover. Estadio Pensativo. Translated into English, that name means thoughtful stadium. I can see why it might be thought-provoking. I can picture me sitting here in deep thought, just thinking to myself, there is a more than 0% chance that volcano over there erupts and kills everyone. It's actually a dormant volcano called Volcán de Agua, water volcano. The reason for this name is because after heavy rains, vast amounts of mud flowed down from the mountain and destroyed this country's original capital city, Ciudad Vieja, back in 1541. And you've got to understand, this was before they had these sort of modern mops, so it would have been, very difficult to clean up. Estadio Verapaz. Having opened in 1936, this is one of the oldest grounds in the country. It was not just the first football stadium in the city, but the first facility dedicated to sports of any kind to be built in Coban. The capacity of 15,000 may seem like an overestimate, but that includes the surrounding hills, and even those watching from their cars. Personally, I'd like to hang a hammock between two trees and watch the game from up here. Some fans do actually congregate up here. I don't know if they bring hammocks though. Although Guatemala is a tropical place, the pine trees here have me thinking this could be somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I really like this ground. Estadio Doroteo Guamuch Flores, also known as Estadio Nacional Doroteo Guamuch Flores, as it acts as the national stadium of Guatemala. It was named after a notable Guatemalan marathon runner after he won the 1952 Boston Marathon. Well, actually it was known as Estadio Mateo Flores, which I guess was the name he was better known by. However, it was changed to his birth name in 2016. The running track was actually made of sand all the way up until 1996. The stadium was initially built to host the Central American and Caribbean games in 1950, as were some of the other grounds in this league, but this was the actual host venue. It is by far the biggest estadio in the league and the country, but with great capacity comes great responsibility. The most tragic chapter of this stadium's history was the crush that occurred in 1996 that killed 83 people. That was during a World Cup qualifier between Guatemala and Costa Rica. It was caused by counterfeit tickets. Very sad. The ground was subsequently banned from hosting international matches until safety upgrades were made. It took 2 years. Estadio David Ordonez Bardales. Bardales was mayor of this city when the stadium was built, and he was actually the founder of the club. He died in a plane crash in 1951, so you can definitely see why the stadium was named after him. They certainly weren't going to name the airport after him. Speaking of which, the runway is less than a mile down the road, so that's convenient. Cock.
What do you want, man?
Well, if you're going to be like that, never mind. Estadio David Cordon Hichos. This league has all its Davids in a row. I think I slightly prefer this David. The stadium, that is. I don't know what the Davids were like as people. Speaking of rows, I quite like the row of trees beyond the goals. At this end, it combines with a yellow wall to form the club colours. This giant inflatable mattress is slightly the wrong shade of green though. But I'm not going to complain. Most stadiums don't even have a giant inflatable mattress. Can you believe that? Beyond one of those walls there is a water park, which is kinda cool, and you can stay cool in the pool. But don't act a fool and be a tool. Keep it cool. Okay, enough rhyming, let's move on. Situated in the town of Malacatan is Estadio Santa Lucia. Malacatan is situated very close to the border with Mexico, so there's probably a lot of white powder that makes its way through this town. You know, flour is cheaper in Mexico and the Guatemalans want to keep those tortilla prices low, so that's okay. I'm sure there's also plenty of coke here as well. I mean, there just has to be, why else would they be advertising it? Anyway, I do like this ground, it has an eclectic mix of stands, but by no means does it look hodgepodge. They all come together nicely. Estadio Marquesa de la Ensenada is home to the previous club's rival. It too is in the San Marcos department, but is situated around 2,400 metres above sea level, which is approximately 2,000 metres higher than their rival's ground. So I'd imagine that gives them a major home ground advantage. But then again, the lower humidity up here might counteract that a little bit. What's the highest you've ever been? Let me know in the comments.
Well, there was this one time, me and a friend ate these mushrooms that we found in the bush, and we started seeing, like, flying elephants everywhere, man, and, like, my friend turned into Shrek. He turned into Shrek, man. He was Shrek. It was crazy, man.
Rightio, I was talking about elevation, but cool story. Estadio Santo Domingo de Guzman. If you think this concrete stand here looks incredibly dull, well, you're in luck, because the club have given it a new paint job. As a tribute to Buzz Lightyear, who was sadly killed by a pack of Albanian street dogs in the year 2023. Actually, you know what, I think that was just a dream I had. The distinctive new look is more likely to do with the fact that those are the club's colours. Yeah, that makes sense. It does certainly make for a distinctive look, I already said that, didn't I? Estadio Manuel Felipe Carrera. We're back in the capital and largest city in Guatemala, which is called, Guatemala City, that's the one. Geez, how they expect people to remember that? Ouagadougou. Now that's a name. No one's going to forget that Ouagadougou is the capital of Portugal. This is a very cozy little ground and the amenities seem to be pretty good, but you may have noticed the absence of one particular amenity, that being floodlights. They will finally be installed prior to the start of next season, so then they can play night games here without the players constantly running into each other. Estadio Mario Camposeco. Not only does Mario Camposeco have a stadium named after him, but the club itself is named after him. He was another player that died in a plane crash, and it was just a few months after David's crash, and less than a year after the stadium opened. If I ever visit 1950s Guatemala, remind me to take the bus, although that probably wasn't so safe either. Reminds me to build a giant catapult as a means of transportation. Like many stadiums, this one is shaped by the roads that surround it, so it looks a bit like a sardine tin. Estadio Los Cuchumatanes. This ground's name was actually chosen by the listeners of a local radio station. They were very lucky not to end up with Estadio Mick Estadio Face. It's a reference to a nearby mountain range. I guess those are the foothills over there. It's not the highest mountain range in the country, but all of the other mountain ranges that are higher are cheating, because they are using volcano power. This design is actually very similar to the first one we saw. Weirdly, both stadiums are home to a club that wears green and yellow, yet neither stadium matches that colour scheme. Not that matters on game day, the fans bring the colour. So there you have it. My favourite ground in the league is probably the low-key Estadio Verapaz. Just don't let the illegal loggers anywhere near this place, because the trees are like 80% of the reason why it's my favourite. Subscribe if you want to, and thanks for watching, have a good one.